first thing to understand about your values is that most people are not clear on them because we're in a very privileged group in our community or our world, from the point of view of half the world's population are spending all day searching for food. Half of them are not even searching for food, they're looking for safety to get away from bullets and bombs, those kind of things. Therefore, it's a bit of a privilege to be able to say, well, I'm going to make the time to have a look at my values. And why should I do that? Well, firstly, understand you have the privilege of doing that. And because you have the privilege of doing that, it's worth taking the time to do it properly and to do it well. You see, the first thing to address is, all right, you need to get away and spend some time on this. Organise a time and a place where you can devote the energy and the spiritual grunt power that it's going to take to go deep, because values are not sitting on the surface. What are values? That basically they're our deepest, most treasured I'm going to say values, but beliefs, the things that we believe matter the most, the things that we will go to battle on. You know, you could say, is it a value if you wouldn't fight for it? And the answer is, well, if you wouldn't fight for it, the chances are no, it's not a value. It's kind of more of a superficial thing. So our values tend to end up being our moral code. We use our values to guide ourselves into the unknown. You want a well-established set of values that you've spent the time making sure have quality and have substance and really are important to you. Now, many people find that bit the difficult bit because they go, well, I don't know what's important. It's all important. That's actually just a lack of depth. That's actually just a lack of time spent on the project. So maybe your adventure into discovering and articulating your values is going to happen more than once, because you've got to go back to it and re-examine it and get deeper. And truthfully, you know, the quality of your life has a lot to do with the quality of your thinking. The quality of your thinking has a lot to do with the depth of your thinking, and the depth of your thinking has a lot to do with how often you go back to re-examine and see what more you can find in terms of deeper understanding of yourself and of what matters to you. That becomes your moral compass, your guide into the future. Your decision-making capacity is going to rely more and more on your values and less on external factors. Why are values important? Well, because they affect our decisions. That's going to be true in the current day as well as in the future. You see, most people, when we look at why they're not happy, the real reason is there's a values conflict, because they come up with their values and they say family matters, family's first. But what they discover is they spend all their time at work. They work back, they go early and they stay late, and they don't see the kids on the weekend because they've got to spend all their time doing the things you can't do during the week, like mow the lawns and wash the car and do all that sort of stuff, so they're not around. And so their highest value is family, but they succeed in a career, massively successful, and make a shit ton of money, but they're unhappy because the amount of money doesn't matter compared to the connection with family. And that's what we call a values conflict. And the real reason for establishing your values is so that you don't pursue goals that become meaningless. And for many of us, that's the sad truth about reaching a goal. And this would have happened to you before you were 14. The chances are, if you wanted a push bike when you were a kid, and you wanted it and wanted it and wanted it, and then one day you got it, then you'll notice that sooner or later the push bike lost its magic. Sure, it's fun and there's a heap of joy and satisfaction in having your bike and riding all around town, doing all that, but sooner or later it's just a bike gets left out in the rain. Because we thought that bike was going to make us happy. And the bike's just a possession. So that's an example of, I value the bike. Well, no, you don't. Actually, you valued the freedom that came with the bike. So as early as our early teens, we can discover that values are actually more important than goals, because goals kind of lose their magic. We set the goal as a target, figure we're going to be happy when we get there, whether this is losing weight or paying off the house, doesn't matter. And the sad truth is we arrive and we've lost the weight, or we've paid off the house, or we've got the bike or the promotion or the 2.2 kids in a Volvo, and there's an emptiness inside because that 2.2 children and a Volvo didn't fill up the empty hole the connection with them would have. So the way to figure out what your values are is to do an exercise that can get you started. And typically, the most common form of an exercise is to imagine that you are at a testimonial dinner for yourselves. You know, some friends have got together, there's workmates, there's all sorts of people who know you, and they're there to honour you. They're there to say how great a person you are. And one at a time, they stand up and they give speeches. Specifically, and you need to do this as an exercise, right? So you can do this while I'm talking, or you can do it on pen and paper. First person to get up is someone from your family. So that person, you imagine this person, you can choose who you like from your family, because it doesn't matter if they've passed away already, there's still what we would want them to say about us. So that person from your family gets up, gives a speech about you, and that speech is about why they valued you in their life, what they loved about you, what they liked about you, the things they loved to do with you, and what was magic about you. And that family member of yours gives that speech, and you just kind of listen in. See what happens, see what comes. What you want to do is just listen for the key words. The object of this exercise is not to write all that down, it's to trap the key words. When they say, you know, always there for me, when they say had integrity, then really those are the key words you want to trap. The second person who gives a speech at our imaginary dinner is someone who's a friend of yours. So, you know, they've been a long-term friend. They get up and they talk about why their life was enhanced having you as a friend, what it meant to them to have you in their life, and what was great about their life because of the way you lived your life. And once again, listen for the key words. Third person, third cab off the rank, so to speak, is someone you've worked with. So a workmate from a past job, current job, maybe even a future job. What would you want them to say if they're talking about, you know, we met at work, and what I loved about working with you is blah, blah, blah. And, you know, what you taught me is, and what I've learnt from you, and what I value from you is, and the difference you made in my life is. Trap the keywords on that. Then the fourth person to stand up and have a chat is someone you've met because you had a shared interest with them. So you met them because you were both going to the same gym, or you met them because you're going to both the same church, or you were both going to the same dog training club or whatever. So you met them because, you know, you had a mutual interest, and you kind of got to know them. So this is more like an associate than a friend. So that person stands up. What do you want them to be able to say about you and have it be the truth? And so, you know, the great thing about this is if they're saying it and it's the truth, it means you have to have lived it. So that's the great thing about values, is it tells you how to live. So that associate starts talking about what a difference you made in their life and why the dog training club suddenly became more than the dog training club because you were there. What they learned from you, what they treasure about you, what they like about you. You don't have to limit to 4 people, you know, you can have a dozen if you like, but what you're wanting to do is trap the key words and get them on paper. Sit with those words on that piece of paper and ask yourself which ones matter most. And start to rank them. And start to put an order to them and say, okay, this one, if I had to choose one for number 1, this would be it. And if I had to choose one for number 2, it'd be that one. This can be difficult because it forces you to make a choice. But you want your top 10 ranked. Because without that, you're not going to get the guidance mechanism that you're looking for. So you want the top 10 ranked, and you probably want to know what the top 3 or 4 are. We call those the core values. So the ones that are in the top group, they're the deal breakers. They're the kind of like, you know, if I can't find someone to be with marriage-wise or partnership-wise, business-wise, whose values are not the same, we better not do it. It's a deal breaker. Those are the core values. So you might look at it and say, well, which ones are the deal breakers from the point of view of if they're not included when I'm interacting with someone else, then that relationship's not going to go where I want it to go. And that could save you a lot of pain, and it could direct you towards the relationships that are actually really going to work for you. If you're struggling with that, another way to do that is to get each word and put it on a card, you know, a 3x5 card or back of a business card or whatever. Get those words. You might have 20 of them, you might have 10, doesn't really matter. Sit on the floor, get level, get grounded. Maybe you want to go off in the bush. Get these words onto the ground around you, the floor around you, and sit with them and allow yourself to sit there for a while. And ask yourself, which words do you want closer and which words do you want further away? Just allow yourself to intuitively move them physically. Because sometimes, especially if you're not a visual and you're not an audio, in fact, if you're a kinesthetic kind of person, you may need that facility to be able to move those bits of paper to reflect how you feel about them. And you may not know how you feel about them until you start moving them. So it's definitely an exercise worth doing, is to go to the word on the piece of paper, or the concept or the phrase on the piece of paper, and move that relative to your physical position, because maybe that's how your intuition talks to you. Move those things around, and of course the ones you want closer, they're higher on your list, and that could be a way where you can come up with a list of ranking them 1 to 10. We say rank the top 10, the rest are kind of like they're all number 11. It is possible you can have 2 number 1s. You know, I've been married to my wife Mary 46 years. I love her more than words can tell you. We have 2 children, they're 35 and 34 years old. I love them more than words can tell you. The reality is they are both equal number 1. So my wife and my children, both equal number 1. So you can have that. You can't have 6 number 1s. You're going to have a maximum 2 on any one place. My number 2 value is a single thing by itself. Number 3 is a single thing by itself. I'm deliberately not telling you what they are, because you need to come up with your own rather than borrow mine or anybody else's that you heard, because part of the problem is if you borrow somebody else's that sounds good, well, it's not really you. It's not the deep thinking. It's not the time that you need to put into it to get the quality that you need. It's a prepackaged solution, and all prepackaged things are kind of less than the best when it comes to you, because you're worth it. The other thing you can do is you can download the worksheet attached to this so that you can work through that sheet. It's got a bunch of questions I haven't asked in this video that can give you more depth. They go into more detail, and that could be the directive kind of exercise that you want. So that's pen to paper. In any case, whatever you do, pen on paper is going to be where you need to go with this. So, in summary, quarantine the time, quarantine the place, hop into it.